Hello, everyone. Good afternoon, and welcome to this edition of Entrepreneurship Matters. Jody, Chris, are you there?
Hey, Alicia, how are you?
Hey, Jody. How are you doing?
I'm well, and yourself? You look beautiful in that red.
You do too. I'm gonna look better when I get some Jody Davis in my closet. That's coming soon.
Yes,
Let me
exactly.
get let me get us started, and we're going to get right into this conversation. This is going to be a fun edition of Entrepreneurship Matters. So, Entrepreneurship Matters is a series we've been doing since the summer. It really was the brainchild of an amazing young person from Western High School. Jody will love this, as a fellow Western Dove, who is a young entrepreneur, Camry Moses, and really thought about how can we tell the story of entrepreneurs and help individuals understand how to support you, but also the rich gems that we have of you in our community. What we know is that successful business entrepreneurs aren't built in a day. It takes undiluted passion, a lot of grit, a long-term commitment, multiple failures and successes to make it happen. And Jody Davis and Chris Schafer, I can personally say, are two people who are making it happen. Let me give your bios, which are long, but I'm going to shorten them because we will get into your story over the course of the next hour. But Jody Davis has been designing women's apparel for more than 25 years. She is known and recognized for her stylish, wearable, functional dresses. You probably have seen many people with a Jody Davis design on and didn't know it. She has been named by the Baltimore Sun as one of the best of Baltimore in fashion design. And I will amend that to say she's one of the best in the world in fashion.
Oh, thank you.
She launched her business in September of 2009 after a chance meeting with a California-based clothing manufacturer. She presented several selections and left an impression, and he flew her to his factory and she then opened her own store in February of 2010. We're going to get into that to talk about your inaugural collection and what has happened since there. Jody is a proud Baltimorean. Anyone who knows her knows that of her. She is a proud graduate of Western High School. And in 1991, she received an associate's degree in fashion design. And in 1992, she earned an associate's degree in accessories design from the world-renowned Fashion Institute of Technology in New York City. So welcome, Jody, here today.
Thank you, Alicia.
Again, I say an internationally renowned clothier who first learned the art of measuring and design while living in London, which has had a profound effect upon his life and his designs in many respects. While he was immersed in English culture, he absorbed the sensibilities of some of the world's best clothiers while being trained in the skills he would need to execute his own vision of classic English style. Chris is a man who you've seen many men around the country in his suits that blends European style and fit with a modern attention to detail, clean, understated lines and comfort. I'll say I first met Chris not as a clothier. I actually met him in a nonprofit that he founded, and he'll talk about that a little bit, which is Sharp Dressed Man, where he applies his clothier skills to helping men who were formerly incarcerated and men in our city who are seeking jobs to really be dressed to the nines in fashion. So both of you, thank you for joining us today. So why don't we get into this conversation? And if everyone those are not backgrounds, they are actually in their stores. So we're also going to get to see some of their fashions during this Entrepreneurship Matter. So I can't wait for this. But get into what inspired you to become an entrepreneur and to go into fashion. I'm gonna start with you, Jody, and then go to Chris.
Okay. Well, I found from early on in life that I had that entrepreneur spirit. I was always one thinking of a way how I could make my own money. Started out first as a newspaper, delivering newspapers, and then I started selling like hot dogs and French fries to some of my neighbors, and realized I could make my own money. So that made me realize I never wanted to work for someone else. I always wanted to be my own boss. So I would say it started out pretty early in life for me.
Well, hot dogs and French fries.
Baltimore, but listen, we're in
Baltimore, hey,
Baltimore.
yes, we've heard everything, candy, all sorts of stuff. All of you started pretty young with your entrepreneurship journey. How about you, Chris? What inspired you to want to be an entrepreneur?
I deliver the newspaper too.
Ah,
That
is that the path to fashion?
that job, I tell you, I still think about things that I learned from that being, because it was my first job. I delivered newspapers for the Maryland Gazette, which was 2 days a week. It was Wednesday and Saturday. So it was, because a lot of people knew they delivered the Sun and everything, and it was every day, and they would get fried out and quit. I ended up, so it was very manageable, but I ended up having like 80 people on my route. And you learned about customer service. You learned about collecting money.
Yes.
You had to go knock on the door. Some people would hide from you. You're a little kid and they're hiding from you to pay their, it's learned a lot from that, but it's a shame that job doesn't really exist anymore. It's like, when it started to be a guy in a van delivering everything, it wasn't quite the same, but learned a lot from that. And then have had so many jobs over the years, but and I find that I pull from all that stuff, but the entrepreneur part of it was that I've been a musician all my life. And when you're doing that, no one wants to invest in you until they see that you're a good investment. And, and it's like, and when you're playing music and you're in a band situation, it's very much a team sport. And, and it's a difficult, I love it. And I kind of had to step away from it for a little bit. When I started the business, I realized I was like, I can do this, make the calls myself and really become self-reliant. But it kind of came from all, the paper route was definitely a starting point, but it was from music and understanding about like promotion and getting gigs and having people show up to gigs and don't, that really taught me a lot, to where I eventually realized I was like, when I kind of put it all together, I realized I'm like, I'm an entrepreneur. I've been one forever, and I take that approach in what I do now with having someone that works with me. So there's an employee mindset and there is a owner mindset. And if you think more like an owner, then you'll think about what things cost and not wasting things and really being a part of the business.
That's a good segue into my next question, and I'll start with Jody again. How did you, Jody, before I go there, what paper were you? So Chris was the Maryland Gazette. What were you?
And I'm glad he said that. I was with the Afro, and I did the Afro because they had a contest, like a student contest. Whoever sold the most Afros could get in the paper, and I was the winner. So, yeah, it started with the Afro.
Excellent. Okay, we're already starting to get questions in, so I'm going to tell people how to get your questions in. I already see them coming in. You can put them in the chat in Zoom. I know a lot of you are watching on Facebook. You can put them in the comments on Facebook. You also, if you're on the phone or if you just are on any of the other devices, you can text your question to 22333 and type JHUWL in the message and then put your question in. Well, I'll make sure we'll get to all of your questions throughout the course of the webinar today. But Jody, so you met a clothier in 2009, fascinated, and then you start your business. But can you tell people who are watching, how did you go from concept, desire, to going into starting your own clothing line?
Well, as you said, it does not happen overnight. So for me, when I graduated high school, I got a job with the government. So I worked at the government, but in the evening, I started sewing. And then I started getting compliments from family and friends off of my pieces. And so I thought they were being nice. And then I started getting compliments from people that I did not know. And then eventually people started asking me to make and design pieces for them. So you kind of build and grow and you cultivate and you perfect. And so then after 7 years of working for the government, I decided it's time for me to pursue this a little further. I applied at FIT. I didn't get accepted immediately because you had to show garments and you had to show sketches. And my garments were great, but my sketches were horrible. So they said, take art classes in Baltimore and commute to New York to take your first couple of draping classes. And of course, on a shoestring budget, I figured, how am I going to do that? But somehow, some way, I was able to do both. I took classes in Baltimore and I commuted to New York every weekend for the first semester. And then when I had to go back to the next interview, as fate would have it, I got the same counselor. I said, these are the things you suggested I do. I did it. I got A's in all 4 classes. And here's my portfolio. And she said, I don't need to see your portfolio. Your determination shows that you wanted to be here at FIT. So you are accepted. So I got accepted at FIT. I got my degrees. And then after college, you try to figure out what is the next, like, what do you do? So I moved to the DC area, got a job at Neiman Marcus as a salesperson. And I worked at Neiman Marcus for 7 years. And then my boss that I had at the time, she said, either you're going to quit or I'm going to fire you, because you, instead of selling somebody else's clothes, you need to be selling your own. So that was the kick that I needed to go out there and pursue my own thing. And so with all of that being said, I started designing at home. You know, I opened up my business, just me making the pieces. And the clothier that I'm speaking about, he is a client of Kevin's, my honey. And so he came in town and excuse me, we had a great day. And he asked, what did I do? And I told him I'm a designer. So he said, let me see some of the things that you designed. So I pulled out some pieces and then I said, no, it's better for me to try them on. So I started trying the pieces on. So then he asked the question, who's the pattern maker? I'm the pattern maker. Who's the sample maker? I'm the sample maker. Who's the fit model? I'm the fit model. Who's the salesperson? I'm the salesperson. So I'm wearing all of the hats. And so he was so impressed that he said, you come out to California. I'm going to show you how to perfect your patterns and we're going to go into manufacturing. And that was the thing that gave me the jump start of opening this boutique, which I've been here now for 10 years. But when I first got here, I was not manufacturing. I had just one rack of clothing that I had made myself, but just taking the steps. You don't have all the answers when you start out. The point for me, the thing is to just keep going, just build on what you learned and keep growing.
So there are a couple of things. You dropped so many gems and just that, just telling us how you got started. First, you started with your friends and family, and it was from a passion inside,
Yeah.
right? You created a business out of something you were doing for free.
Yeah.
Designing for
Something
free.
I thought was a hobby.
What you thought what happened? Then I think this is the one. This is the part of your story that gave me a little bit of chills. You went to FIT. You wanted to go. When you got there, you realized you weren't as prepared as they wanted you to be to enter. And
Yes.
you came back and you didn't give up.
Right.
You went to school here, perfected, and then and then what got you in the second time wasn't, I mean, you probably were a better drawer than you were the first time, but what got you in was your determination, the stick-to-itiveness you demonstrated. And that really is the story of how you got to your manufacturer. I think those are just poignant lessons. I know folks taking out their pads and writing down things, but that was a really, really, for me, a lesson that you probably didn't realize you were teaching as you just gave your story. Chris, how about you? How did you get started going from thought in your head, a paper guy, to a clothier, clothing people all over the world?
So, thinking about the first job and delivering newspapers and everything, right? And like that came from, I have 4 brothers, 3 older, 1 younger. And my older brother is 4 years older than me. Mm-hmm. So I was getting his hand-me-downs and they were pretty busted when I was a kid, right? And so by the time I was in like 5th grade, my one brother was giving up his paper route. I took his paper route so I could start making my own money, so I could start buying my own clothes, because you're getting self-conscious of what you're wearing, And so my parents had to provide for 5 children, so it was a lot to deal with. And at that point in my life, it was, it's like, as it still is, I still love the skateboarding and punk rock and that whole vibe of everything. And so I wanted to be able to buy my own clothes and everything. And I was able to start to do that. I was able to start, they would give me the basics, and the extra stuff I wanted, I was buying myself. And growing up and skating all my life and being a musician, there, it's like the fashion and music always go together. And there was a point when I was actually like when we were really going for it musically, I was making like funky stage clothes and stuff like that. And so it's really kind of emerged to that point, really got to that point, but I wasn't ever into suits. Suits weren't really my thing. And it wasn't until I got married and my wife's work sent us to London, and we went to London. I went over there for her work. It was going to be good for her career. And I just kind of figured, this is a great opportunity. Let's see what happens. I should be able to find work. It shouldn't be a big deal. And it wasn't like that. All of a sudden, I was the foreigner on a work visa, and was really fortunate that a younger guy saw my resume and he called me up and said, "What do you think about learning how to design suits?" And I said, "Look, I don't even own a suit." I said, "It's not how I dress. I'm not into it." He goes, "But look, you seem like you're willing to hustle and you're a creative guy. And if you're open-minded, then you might just be able to go and learn." And I was really fortunate to have some great teachers living in London. And I realize now, with being the teacher myself, is that if you're hungry as a student, you're going to absorb more. The teacher is going to give you more because you're implementing what it is that they're teaching you. And I just soaked it all in. And I was in a foreign country. I didn't know anyone there. And I was just like, and I realized as I started to kind of figure this thing out and being dressed up and walking around the streets of London, I realized I found my calling. And then when I came home, I realized I need to do this on my own. I need to start my own business. I need to do this my own way. I have this whole other vision of how I see things. And this was in 2010, and we're coming out of I saw the recession hit in England before it hit here, and so I kind of knew it wasn't the best time to start a business, you know what I mean? But it was like, it had to happen. It was time to make it happen. And so I gave it everything I had. And now it's 10 years later, coming up on, it's been 10 years already.
Yeah. Wow. Both of you actually started around the same time.
I know. I met Jody back then. I remember better years ago.
Oh, wow. Wow. And both of you both of you talk about, being hungry, and you can't teach hungry. I mean, you just can't.
You
either got it or you don't. Either got it or you don't.
Struggle. You can't. If you don't have it, you don't have it. But both of you demonstrate and how that hunger really drew people to you that really seemed like they were pivotal in your career. So let me ask you this, both of you, because we're gonna do a lot during this Entrepreneurship Matters. I'm getting into the questions early. So we're going to go on a tour. We're going to see designs. We want to see your portfolio. We're going to do all of that in this hour. So we're going to get to it. What has been your greatest accomplishment thus far? So I'll start with Jody and then Chris. What has been the thing that has, and let me say, your story's not over. So I say thus far, because your best days are ahead of you. But what has been sort of a critical accomplishment thus far?
I think for me, one of my accomplishments is something that I wasn't even seeking. And it's, and I say the thing is preparation meets opportunity, when preparation meets opportunity. And it is that the curators at the Maryland Historical Society reached out to me because they had been watching me for, I wasn't aware of it, but they reached out to me and they wanted to put one of my dresses in the museum. So now my dress is in the Maryland Historical Museum. And as a young lady from Baltimore, the inner city of Baltimore, being in a museum is something I've never even thought or dreamed of. And to have my dress hanging in the museum with dresses that are 200 years old, whatever the case is just, it's an accomplishment for me. An accomplishment that I didn't even seek, that it came to me.
Wow. You draw things to you. That's right.
I'm thankful. Hard work.
Yes. How about you, Chris? What has been one of your greatest accomplishments thus far?
So there's three things that pop into mind, right? The one is starting the nonprofit organization, starting Sharp Dress Man, and helping all of these guys get suited up who were down on their luck or trying to start all over again, because that's where I come from. I've been in recovery for 16 years. And so I need to keep that fresh of what life used to be like and what life could be like. And so helping others just keeps it nice and fresh for me. So that's you know, that's, I was a wild child for a long time, and so been much more mellow, but I helping people that are getting back up on their feet, as people did for me, is number one. Number two would be being a mentor and seeing people become successful that I've taught. Is, I never knew that was so much that was in me. You know, I didn't know that that was something that was important to me. But when you see people become successful and blossom, and you've been you don't own their success, you help them get their success, and you're a part of that. And you know, it's I'd fought off the maturity thing for a long time, and then I realized, I'm like, it's actually kind of like it, you know, it's like it's actually really cool. So that's a part of it. As far as, like, you know, crowning moments or anything like that, I've had the opportunity to work with some legit rock stars and see them wearing my clothes on stage and become friends with them. And it's for the musical part of me to be sitting down and, you know, having cool in-depth conversations with people that I really respect them musically, and then get to know them personally, and then they perform wearing the clothes, is like, you know, is really cool. So that's something that for me, you know, it's like it really hits home, because it's kind of like, you know, it's the rock star dream stuff it's still alive and well.
No, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, we talked a little bit before we got on camera about the challenge and the pivots. We had a lot of fun. We almost missed the show, almost missed the whole thing. But you both talked about pivots and challenges and things that you've done in your business differently to face today. You talk a little bit about that and take people through your journey. Many of them probably are thinking through, how can I adapt? How can I change? How can I keep above water during this time? So why don't I start with Jody and then Chris?
Sure.
Well, for me, during this pandemic, what I did is, from the studio, I took my portable sewing machine that I've had for the last 30 years. It still works. So I took that home, and I said, before we even knew how long this was going to be, I started making some masks, just playing around. And then I started getting calls from people saying, okay, do you have any masks? And before you know it, those little inclinations turned into me working around the clock in there, producing masks, perfecting the patterns, because, you know, you think a mask is so simple, but, you know, you got to make sure it's fitting and the fabric is right and all that kind of stuff. And so pivoting to making masks, and then getting my website up so that people all over the country now are shopping Jody Davis Designs online. So now that gave me the opportunity to get my website up and start shipping and selling. And then getting contracts from large businesses that needed PPP or those type of things, just figuring out where can you get the fabrics, how can you make the patterns, what production, because with the pandemic, everything shut down. My production team that I work with in New York, I couldn't access them. So you got to figure out how can you pivot right where you are. And it's a trial and error. So I would say it's a trial and error. Don't give up, just keep pushing and finding your way.
Yep. Excellent. Chris, how about you? How'd you pivot?
Well, we did the same thing. We did masks. We were doing some of that with some really beautiful English shirting fabric that we were making out of. And it was one of those things we tried it. We had some good luck with it. And we also started doing some bomber jackets, so we could use some really cool fabric for doing that. But we didn't want to go way far out of our lane or doing anything that's too casual or anything. We had our shop, we have a pretty nice size shop here, and we have a space next door that's a event space. And but since there was no events going on, I was really fortunate there was a friend of mine that was retiring. He was a photographer, and I called him up to thank him on his retirement. And I said, if you ever want to do photo shoots, we have a photo studio that's in here and you can use it whenever you want. And he came up because he was retiring from the business, but his team wanted to keep the business going, and they sublet the space. And so now it's like, so now they're offsetting my rent, which is great because you can reduce the overhead, and it's working for them to be able to have a space. But I've taken the approach of, I've sort of stepped back from the business a bit, and I have an apprentice who's really stepped up. And so I've, it's like life a lot is, time versus money, and so I I took the time so that he could make the money and he could get the experience and the education of really running a shop. Because I have, I have two younger kids at home, and I've got a lot of time to spend. I've been able to spend a lot of time with them, and that's kind of like, it's invaluable. I was talking with a friend of mine earlier who's a grandmother, and she said she spent the summer with her grandkids. Where and like, you're not gonna. It's been amazing. I mean, so it just making the most out of something that's crazy has been sort of the pivot. I think we're in a new year and it's a new time, so it's kind of it's time to pivot again. It's time. It's so. Trying to make the most out of this year, because last year was tough. I mean, it was a hard hit.
No, absolutely. And so let me get to this question, because someone posed this question on Facebook, and I want to make sure I get to this while we're in this same discussion. Jody, you off making stuff for us? Where'd you go, Jody?
She was there and then gone.
She's running around the store. I already see her assembling things for us. Let me get to this. So as an entrepreneur, people normally wear all hats, and Jody talked about this, wearing all these hats in the business.
100%.
How do you expand to letting others have roles in your business? How do you get to that?
Little bit at a time, little bit at a time. But I also think in order to be good at something, you kind of have to know how to do it. It was like, we've had, I've had different people working here over the years and had people helping me with admin and social media and everything like that. And, the more people that you talk to, you realize like, you're not always supposed to be the smartest person in the room,
Yeah.
and so, and also realizing like, what are you good at? What is it that, what is your highest and best use of time,
Yeah.
So, I'd realized years ago, I was like, I hate doing the numbers on the book. And I hired an accountant, and that was great because my wife used to do it when I first started. And it was so volatile, the ups and downs. And then I knew how volatile it was. And then she would yell at me about how volatile it was. And I was like, oh God.
You like to stay married and just get out of the business.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, she's an engineer. She knows numbers. And I was like, oh God, so, but, yeah. So, hiring people, when you get to the position, when you can hire people to do the stuff that you don't like doing or that you're not really good at is great, and then you focus on the stuff that you are good at and what you really like doing. But that takes time, it takes a while before you can afford to do those things.
Right.
Yeah. How about you, Jody? How did you get to the point where you talked about you were wearing all these hats in your
right back to
pivot? Both of you, is this look, y'all just go off screen at different there's no regulation. How did you get to the point of being able to pivot and expand? You talk about your team in New York. How did you get to that point?
Well, once the business starts growing and you start getting some revenue in, I realized in order to keep the revenue coming in, I needed to have more products or more availability. So, and actually, I had found a production company in New York, just a small company, but they were dealing with larger companies. And because they were dealing with larger companies with bigger orders, my orders kept getting pushed back. And so my spring merchandise might not have came out until the end of fall. And I realized that was not going to work. And I prayed, and it just so happened I was in an elevator in New York, and this woman got on the elevator and she said, "Are you a designer?" And I said, "Why did you ask me that?" And long story short, she had a production company, a small one. And she said, "I can make some pieces for you. Give me a call." A couple of months later, she called me and she said, I met you in the elevator. And now 8 years later, she is my production team, and they are amazing. And so you find once, as Chris said, once you start growing and you have a little extra money, and realizing focusing on what you're good at is the better way of continuing to scale your business. So I would say that's it.
We have a lot of people who are in the fashion industry on, because they're saying things that I'm not as a non-fashion designer. I'm going to give you the questions, but you can answer. What is your process like as a designer? How do you critique your work to improve your apparel without being overly critical? How is the creative process for you as you are designing something that's really in your mind? And I know even you, Chris, with your suits, they aren't these aren't the suits you get at Macy's. This is a different quality. This is a different, we're talking about a whole different level of creativity. So not to down Macy's if Macy's is warm, but Jody, what would you say? What is your process like?
My process is, so I have my dress form that I've had since college. So I drape my fabric on my dress form to make my patterns. So I make my patterns and then I make my sample. And of course, my construction and all that kind of stuff is not perfect, but I get it to the point where I'm able to give it to my production team. But with all that being said, so now I can make a dress maybe in 2 hours, as opposed to years ago, it may have taken me 48 hours or something like that. So you continue to perfect your craft and you continue to get better. And it's okay to critique yourself, but not to critique yourself too much where you don't grow. Critiquing is a good thing. It shows you where your flaws are, what you need to improve on. But now that I have a production team, I don't even care. Like long as I know that they know what the finished product should look like, then I get it to the point where they will understand the design, they will understand the construction, and they take it from there. So that point where you grow from trying to wear all the hats and you pass it on to those other professionals is the key.
Excellent. How about you, Chris? What's your process like as a designer?
Well, so for us, we do custom clothing that's all made individually for the person. Mm-hmm. So we house clothing that we have here that are samples that we can use for try-ons and things like that, or we lend out for photo shoots or fashion shows or anything like that. But for us, the big part of what I do is getting to know the client and how do they want to wear the clothes and what do they want the clothes to say, what do they want them to say? We do a lot of work for weddings and everything. So some people, it's like, might be their first suit that they've ever had. And so they kind of need to sort of be a catch-all for everything. And then you have other people that are, that have quite an extensive wardrobe and can be a bit, can really go in detail the clothes as much as you might want to. So it really depends on the person, because some people come in with a set idea of what they want. Other people come in and they're just like, show me, just kind of walk me through the whole thing and show me how to do it. So it really depends on the person. Yeah. Because the only thing we really do as far as like ready-made stuff is going to be like accessories and everything. So and we have quite an extensive library of fabric that we keep and everything like that. So it's really a one-off, walking the person through what it is they want to do and measuring, because it's like you could have 10 different people measure you and they're going to have 10 different ways that they're going to come up with. Right. My part of understanding how do you want the clothes to fit, and what's going to feel like. I feel like there's a big difference between clothes that are tight and clothes that are tailored. And so I want clothes that are tailored, that look right on somebody and just have, that just look like it's funny. We'll get people to stand in front of the mirror and they're like, I feel like these clothes were, and I'm like, made for you. And they're like, yeah, so it's like, like, that's the idea, right? Is that it's like, they just fit your body and your, imperfections, sort of balance everything out and make you look right. So, but there is basically, there's a process that goes through everything with the measuring and picking the fabric and linings and buttons and all the other details that go into it that I love. And, seeing someone stand there when trying the clothes on and they see themselves, all suited up with, and I tell you, I get the same buzz from doing it at Sharp Dressed Man with recycled suits and seeing guys dressed up as you do seeing guys wearing custom suits that we've created for them. So it's that's the part of it. Like, those are the fringe benefits of all of it. They kind of keep you really jazzed about, what it is we do.
So this goes right back into the question I just posed to you. Jody, you started out by talking about how some artists, when you started designing, you weren't a drawer. You didn't draw. And so there's so many designers who prefer not to draw. How skilled of an artist should a designer be? So do you have to be great at drawing and at designing, or how do you think about it?
I would say it's just we all have our own way, our own aesthetic of what works for you individually. And for me, sketching, and to this day, I still can't sketch. Like I can do a stick figure just enough to get the concept down. But for me, the design and the creation comes when I drape on my dress form, when I take the fabric and I, every fabric doesn't respond the same. So you have to see, and I work better with wools and cottons and natural fibers as opposed to man-made fibers. So we all have our own aesthetic. There are some designers that are beautiful at sketching or drawing and don't have the draping ability. So you figured out what is the better way for you.
Yeah, and someone asked what were your favorite pattern fabrics. So you talked about wool and more natural.
Cotton,
Cotton.
I generally use natural fibers as opposed to man-made. And man-made fabrics are like polyester, rayon, those type of things. Now, I will also say with the man-made fabrics or the natural fabrics, I still like fabrics that have lycra because every woman wants a little stretch in her garment. So I do natural fabrics
Every woman wants a little stretch.
with a little stretch in it. Yeah.
I gotta tell you,
What about you, Chris?
we have wool that has natural stretch, nothing added to it. Amazing.
Really?
Amazing.
Wool, but
yep, I have it here. When I show you around, I'll show you. It's fascinating. And so we work primarily with a company out of England. Well, they're based out of Paris, but it's a lot of English cloth, and it's called Dormay. And they are 5th generation. They've been making wool for coming up on 200 years soon. But they do very old school stuff and very new school. And so they figured out, because they use these long, soft fibers, is that when they're weaving the wool, of how they could adjust the tensioners to build in elasticity to it without adding anything, any synthetic fibers to it. And it's amazing, because I mean, wool's been around forever. And
right.
So, I mean, that's primarily with us. We're working with wool, sometimes with blends, but they would be with silk or cashmere or anything like that is primarily what we're doing in shirts, or, usually cotton is what you're making those out of. So that's sort of the, as far as material wise goes, that's what we're using.
Okay, let me get to this question, and then we're about to do the tours, because people are asking for tour and they want to see your fabric. So what fears do you think people have to get over in order to be successful as a fashion entrepreneur? What's the hurdle, the mind game, the fear game? What would you say, Jody or Chris?
I would say you got to take the leap. You got to take the step, because there's always going to be fear. That was one of my biggest hindrances, was the fear. But once you get to the point where you let the fear go, then the sky's the limit. Then you'll start figuring out. And my fear was when I started was I would not be able to come up with designs constantly year over year. But I found that now that I've started and I'm growing, I'm doing, things keep coming, or opportunities come up, and somebody says, "Oh, do you have this? Or can you do that?" Or whatever the case is. So
Jody, your sound went out just a little bit. Let me see if I can hear
me.
Yeah, now I can hear you better.
Sorry, the phone was ringing. But it's just the thing is to just start. Like, you got to let the fear go, because it's going to continue to hinder you. You're going to always think of, "Oh, I don't have this, I don't have that." You're never going to have it if you never start. So start.
Excellent. How about you, Chris? What's the mind game? How do you get over that fear?
Well, I mean, I think you have to calculate the risk the best that you can. You have to look at it and be, and try and learn as much as you can. There is a certain point when you just have to make the leap, and that it's tricky, because I know for me personally, I wasn't looking to, I didn't know that I was going to be starting a business. It presented itself in such a way where it was like, it was sort of the part where you have to ask yourself, do I want to be down the road and look back at this and say, what if? And I don't ever want to be in there. I never want to be in that position. And so, but it's difficult. And the reality of it is that it's a lonely road for a while. Even if you're in a relationship and everything like that, it's your thing, and you don't get the pat on the backs when you're starting. You just work your ass off, and that's really what it comes down to. I mean, there's no, it's cool when things work out and you've been hustling for a long time and things start clicking and you get these little, I feel like, you're going down the road, and do you get the right road signs to tell you keep going in the right, you're going in the right direction, you're going in the right direction. And it's interesting, even being on this call with Jody, realizing, I met her, decade ago, probably, we were both getting things started, and then we're on this call and we're talking about what it took to start things and where things are now, because, now with what's happened with COVID, it's definitely set us back of what it feels like several years ago to where we were. Because, we had grown this where, things were really rocking, right? Up until March, and this has been a hard hit. So even 10 years into the game, I'm having to go and get my mind back into sort of a restart. We were talking about a little bit about that beforehand. You're never, what do they say? Success is rented. You know what I mean? It's like you never own it. So, what worked in the past, so that's the thing is like, I'm kind of getting my head around the fact of like, I've been able to take a lot of time away and sort of, spend time with family and enjoy all kinds of stuff like that. But I'm really looking at, what does it look like when things start coming around? And I believe the more people that I talk to that are looking into the future talk about the roaring 20s. And if we have the roaring 20s 100 years later, well, then it's like fashion was a big part of that. People wanted to go out. They wanted to dress up.
It's the truth.
So that's the approach that I'm taking, is hang in there. And then it's like, that's why I didn't want to water down the product we're doing. I mean, it's like, we're doing, world-class, there's 6 grades of suits. We're doing grade 6. We're doing high end. I'd put it up against anyone in the world, the quality that we're doing. And what a lot of people do is they'll say, "Oh my God, I'm gonna go and start being the cheapest guy in town." And I don't want to do that. And then, this town, what a lot of people don't realize is that when they look at menswear and they think the Joseph A. Banks story is a Baltimore story. That's a Baltimore company that got gigantic to the point where it became kind of like the laughing stock of the industry. And at one point it wasn't. It was a very well-made garment that was made out of Baltimore, and it grew and grew and grew. And so I pay attention to that, of like being able to keep something manageable and not rolling back and going and trying to be everything to everyone. Because that was one of the most important things that I realized, is it's like, you're never going to be everything to everyone. You're never going to make everyone happy. So when you're an entrepreneur, you got to feel it inside of your soul that what you are doing, you believe in yourself, because there's a ton of naysayers. I mean, I started and everybody told me no one gets dressed up in Baltimore. No one does this. And I just had to be like, I can't listen to you, because everyone I knew, when I came back home from London, everyone that I knew didn't suit up. I knew a bunch of musicians and artists, and like that was my life beforehand. So none of us were really into dressing up. But when people saw that I was really focused on what I was doing and I believed in myself, then they started to come around later. And, it's like what Jody had touched on, the family and friends thing is really like, they are the last to come around, I find. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, don't look for them to be paying for anything for a while.
It's like free 99. The family 5-finger discount.
Of course.
But no, you're right.
So that's the thing. It's like, but when they do come around and it starts to really shake out, it's really cool to see when things are working, because and this is with us turning 10 years old, and even with everything with the pandemic, it's forced everyone to have to, you gotta, if you haven't done some reflection in this time, I mean, what are you waiting for?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and I think that is a big lesson of the pandemic, which is like, how do we get to here? How do we fix this? How do we move forward to be the best that we can be? And that's definitely what I've been doing to just sort of feel, re-energized and moving forward. But yeah, it's scary. It's scary. It ain't always pretty. You gotta really work hard. You gotta be willing to struggle, and and you gotta really do a gut check with yourself and the people around you and say, look, when I first started, I was out so much at events and everything. My wife straight up asked me, "Are you having an affair?" And I was like, no. I was like, I am so dialed in to what I'm doing. Right. And it was scary to hear that. But you know what I mean? It's like, she's got a great head on her shoulders. And I was like, and so I realized, I was like, wow, that I was so into what I was doing. I wasn't taking vacations for the first couple of years. All that stuff, no one wants to hear about that. They want to hear about that, especially when you're in a glitzy business like this.
They don't know.
They don't know. That's the thing, is it's like, that was, that's the thing though. It's like, I think about it now, we've had some gigantic parties for the business. I mean, it's like huge, hundreds of people, all kinds of stuff. The thing about it, I'm like, you can't even do that stuff right now. You can't gather people together. You can't do that. I mean, we had our 7-year anniversary was on the John W. Brown Liberty ship with 600 people dressed to the nines, and it was a 007 theme. I mean, it was awesome, and I miss that. But
coming back. That's why we're here, because we
roaring 20s.
When the roaring 20s come back, people know how to come out in style. All right, we're going to show your designs. Jody, I know you're going to bring your designs to us. You're going to take us into your studio. Chris, you're going to do the same. Before we do that, I'm going to ask you one last question, because we're not going to get to any of the rest of the questions. Oprah, Vanity Fair, all of the magazines are on watching you two. Also big businesses that are thinking about how to even outfit their executives. What would you say to them to help folks like you, support businesses, support the pipeline? What's like a piece of advice that you would give to them? Jody, what would you say?
I would say to give us some business. They have that huge platform. Give us the opportunity to come on and speak about our businesses, what we do, or if, like you said, the corporate companies are looking for garments or wardrobes to wardrobe their crew, to give us small companies the opportunity to submit bids or whatever the case is. I've submitted bids to the government, but those bids are so large that a small company basically is shut out. So giving a small company the opportunity to get some of their business, 5%, 10% of their business will be amazing.
Yep. Absolutely. How about you, Chris? What would you say?
I think, trying to keep stuff local is important, and helping out the people that have been able to weather this storm. It's like, I feel terrible for the people, like even in this city, I'm in an area where there's a lot of great restaurants, and now they're just getting ready to open back up on Friday. And like, that's a huge draw for where I am. So I think that a lot of people are seeing is that, it's a lot of people know people that run a business. And so just support them, it's like, and that's, it's really super important, because, it's like the longer this goes on, what's there going to be to go to when it's said and done. So support the people that you can while they're in business, so that they can stay in business to ride this out. So, and that's on every level. So, I mean, of course, always appreciate the business that's going to keep stuff going. So, that's about it.
That's great. Now, Jody, wait. Okay. Okay. People want to know, what are your signature pieces? So both of you, show me some of your signature pieces. What is a Jody Davis design? What's a Chris Schafer?
Okay. Here.
How do I turn this thing around? Let me see.
You're good. What do you mean? To go the other way?
Yeah, the other way.
Oh, so there should
probably can't do it. I gotta turn this around. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Let's just say I do a lot. I'm starting to do more suits, things that I had not done in the past. So say like Prince. I don't think that's working.
No, we see it. We're good.
Okay. And then like this.
Oh, it's beautiful. Oh, that's beautiful.
I'm just like, and now it's just the fact that things that I didn't normally do. And then I'm doing tops, and I'm doing, because people are doing Zoom calls and that type of thing. So, putting a little tops in your wardrobe.
Woo, y'all stuff is so, look at, I wish you could see the top and the bottom. If there was a couple, they could wear the Chris Schafer suit.
Exactly. They definitely can.
Look at that. Look at this velvet job. This thing is sick.
Oh, that's sick.
Yes, that's beautiful, Chris.
Beautiful. Hold on, show me that leather back. Can you go back, Jody? Show that again.
Okay, yeah. So this leather is something I've been trying to get this leather done for more than a year, and I'm so happy that I found a company that was finally able to do it.
Oh, it's beautiful. Look at the back.
And I'm just so excited about it.
Oh, we're going back. People are going back and forth. So it's nice that both of you on the screen. We get to see both of your production right now.
These are all
Your
fabrics.
fabrics.
These are all fabrics for making sport coats out of. These are garments that are fully made up. This is one where you can see all the handwork that goes into the stitching the lapel.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Yeah, that's the canvas of a jacket right there. So that's what it takes. So that's on the inside of it. These are just some of
My
the
fabric
fabrics.
wardrobe doesn't look like Chris's. You see, mine is
But
jumbled.
I see yours, Jody. I mean, I love both of it.
But that's
Yeah.
because when I'm designing, I just go through my fabrics and I just start pulling stuff so that I could get it over here on my dress form. This is where it starts.
That's from college. Oh, wow.
Yes.
So, Chris, are you now cutting? Is this where you cut?
No, this is what I want to show you. This is the fabric that's right here.
Uh-huh.
This
Oh, is this the
one.
wool that has the bend in it?
Yeah. See if I can get this on here so you can see
Let me
this.
see, Chris. I might have to come down there and see what you got, Chris.
It's amazing. I mean, look, so that's the wool right there.
Uh-huh.
And if you look at it, here, Casey, hold this for me for a second. Hold that shooter right down here. Oh, you got this.
Your print is Casey. Oh, now we get Casey too.
Oh, there you go. Hey, Casey.
There you go.
All right, so look, so you
How's
see
it
this?
going?
Look at that.
Oh, wow.
That's wool that just snaps right back. 100% wool.
Yeah, but that's
Amazing.
that's a man's type of fabric. Do they do
You
stuff
can
for
make,
women?
you can make anything. You can make anything out of that.
I know that's like a wool gab.
Yeah, but it's a super 130s. It's really like, it's nice and light. I mean, even like, look at these colors, like the greens and the blues. And
Oh, beautiful.
that's the thing is like, we don't do women's wear. We do men's wear. That's kind of like.
I know. I talked to you about the women's whip. So that's why I'm going to Jody. Jody's going to hook me up.
Yep.
April.
This is
We're
getting
getting
set up.
new headshots and we're getting a Jody. We're going to have a Jody Davis design on that headshot.
Exactly. We're gonna make that happen.
Yes.
So that's
Let me see some more of your bring some of your designs to us.
These are some of the shoes we're carrying.
Oh, beautiful. Beautiful.
I mean, look at like all
And I love laces and trims.
Oh, that's beautiful. Chris, those shoes you showed us, are those one pieces or two? How are those
So
shoes?
these are the ones that are up here. They're Carmina from Spain. These are whole cut one piece. Then these here are also, these are ones that are going to be stitched together. So these are shoes that are going $500 to $800. They're really high quality. Then we're also doing some beautiful cologne from England.
Oh, what? Anna Jody, don't go. I want that. That's my headshot dress.
This is
Everybody knows that.
This is when we go back to the roaring 20s. Like this is going to be a beautiful piece to have on
That
your wardrobe.
beautiful.
Isn't
Oh
it?
yeah, look at that.
Yes. The roaring 20s are coming
nice.
back.
That is beautiful.
That's the idea. Then the other part. So when the Roaring 20s come back, that's where we're going to be able to. That's where we're going to have some parties in here.
Oh,
That will be awesome.
that will be awesome.
Yeah. So this is the space where we're saying this is our. We have
The photo studio.
Yeah, we could. So
That place is beautiful.
We could have great events and everything in here. So now we have some friends of ours from Hartcorn Studios that are now, this is their photo studio now. They're subletting it from me. That was part of the pivot that I was saying that we did.
Right.
Is that they did that. So they get this section of it, and then this is my section of it.
The stage.
That's awesome, Chris.
Yeah, so this is.
I want to do my headshot there.
Yeah,
we're
gonna do it. Chris, we can collaborate on doing something together.
Would love to. So this drum set I got when I was 15.
You see, and it still works.
Oh my God, this thing is so beautiful. Look at this. This is a 1968 Ludwig psychedelic red. Look at the colors on that thing.
Oh, it's beautiful.
It's a hot,
Is.
it's a hot
is
rod.
wonderful.
So that's the thing. This is where we jam and we have awesome parties and everything. But now we just got to wait a little bit.
Jody, I'm
So
gonna need two outfits. I'm gonna need two outfits because I'm gonna have to be at that drumming. I'm gonna have to do something drumming.
there you go. And then this was for fun. This was cool. It was a
You ride bikes, Chris?
Schwinn tandem bike. That thing is fun.
Can you
Cool. It weighs a ton.
Somebody asked about Sharp Dressed Man. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, of course. You know what? I'll give you a tour. I'll go back over there and show you a tour. So, Sharp Dressed Man, the website is sharpdressedman.org. And we had to close down our location at Old Town Mall because we weren't seeing people in person. And then we stopped taking donations, but we just restarted being able to do that. Here's our alteration.
If you're a man and you have a suit that you no longer can fit,
Yep.
you want to go to Sharp Dressed Man and donate that.
Yeah, you can do that. And so you would bring
volunteering with them. It's wonderful.
Yeah, this
Wonderful.
is the so the clothes come into here. We're at 1400 Alisana Street. So Sharp Dressed Man so what we do is we take the clothes in here and
Give them that address again, Chris.
1400 Alisana. It's right down the hall from our shop. So it's all it's all like, all in one area. So yeah, if you want to drop the clothes off here, we take donations on Friday and Saturday between 12 and 5. And we can give you a tax receipt for the clothes. And then we have our partners will come and pick them up and then they will go and distribute them to guys that are in need. And that's how we're kind of pivoting the nonprofit until we can start to until we get into another location, but we need everything to be safe. So we got to wait it out. But yeah, Sharp Dressed Man is still operating just in a different way.
Excellent.
That's
Let me
awesome, Chris.
It is. Both of you are tremendous. Tell people how can they get in contact with you. Jody, we had a lot of people saying, they saw Michelle Obama last night and they know her designer. You can too look like Michelle Obama with a Jody Davis design. Can you tell us, how do people get in contact with you, Jody? How do they get connected to you?
My website is Jody Davis Design. That's Jody with a Y, jodydavisdesign.com. My boutique is at 110 West Saratoga in downtown Baltimore. So you can shoot us an email at jodydavisdesigns@gmail.com. We're accessible. Facebook, Jody Davis Designs, and Instagram, Jody Davis Designs.
Excellent. And how about Chris? How can people get in contact with you?
So the website for us is christopherschafer.com, or we're on all the social media platforms. Sharp Dressed Man is sharpdressedman.org. And our shop is at 1400 Alisana Street in like the Fells Point Harbor East area. So yeah, it's kind of best, reach out beforehand, set an appointment if you want to come in, or if you are in the neighborhood, just stop by. But yeah, this has been good to be on this call. It feels good.
No, y'all both of y'all were vibing with each other. So I didn't even want to interrupt it when y'all were doing your tours. It was beautiful. I can't wait to watch the tape.
Thank you.
But both, let me say to people who are watching, I know Chris and Jody personally. They have hearts of gold. They are just beautiful leaders in our community. It comes through in the clothes. I think that if great productions are done by great people, and so they are two of our best. And I'm just felt privileged to get to interview you today. It has been a pleasure.
And Alicia, can I say that you are the best, and we so appreciate you and love you, a woman, a heart of gold as well. So I thank you.
Thank you,
Well
Jody.
stated.
Thank you.
Great job.
Thank you. Excellent. So let me wrap us up, and then we were gonna let you go. And I know, Jody, you have a client coming in. Chris, I know you have some folks coming in. So let me get to that. So now you know how to get in contact with Jody and Chris, but we are putting all of their information on our JH Connects channel. And if you haven't watched this, please share it with some folks who are looking for great clothing. We will be back next week with two other entrepreneurs. We're going to be talking all about taxes. So many of you are getting your notices, and we have two amazing tax preparers on, Anika Winstead with Watts Business Solutions and Sakina Tillman with Tillman LLC. You don't want to miss these two amazing entrepreneurs. Please follow us on JH Connects on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Email us feedback. Also, email us about other entrepreneurs that you think we should be featuring. Thank you to our community partners, Johns Hopkins University, Johns Hopkins Health System, Hopkins Local, the Mayor's Office of Small Minority and Women-Owned Business, and the Warnock Foundation. Thank you, Chris and Jody. Y'all both had a
Thank
wonderful
you, Alicia. You too. Have a great day.
Thank you. See you guys.
too.